Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. So in my last video I was talking all about inspiration for housing design, and so now you've been armed with so many great ideas, I think it's about time to take these ideas and make them into reality. For those who may not have a lot of gil, which I think makes up the vast majority of the player base honestly, including myself, I've heard you out and I'm going to do my best to arm you with the knowledge on how to house on a budget. Now, I really do feel like I need to dedicate the first bit of this video to trying to just debunk the housing expenses concern, or to at least try and really curb it, because I think that it is alone probably the biggest factor in demotivating people from decorating, even if they now have a house. If you've recently checked the price of some of the items on the market board, you're gonna see that they are actually pretty expensive. Quite bluntly, I would never consider buying items for housing outright from the market board myself, unless I found something really cheap, but as you've probably seen on the market board, that's not really the case for almost every item. Some of the items on the market board are selling for almost 100,000 gil per item, and these 100,000 gil items on the market board, I can make for roughly 4,000 gil. And that's a markup of literally 25 times the gil. Very few crafters are very hot on the housing market or up to date on keeping a good supply of items up there. They're too focused on something like crafting the latest hotness items like the latest crafter gatherer sets or newest of the new consumables. Aesthetites gear of crafting or gathering is more on their mind than a grade 3 picture frame or a fountain. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I'm not trying to shame crafters for not keeping up with the best return on investment items, but that leaves the housing end of the market board as being especially thin on supply. And as we've all heard, supply and demand, which likewise means that exactly as you guessed, the prices there are disgustingly high for what you're getting, because no one is really competing and undercutting one another. The gil is way overinflated in that market for a lot of housing items. And like I said earlier, and I mean it, some of the items on the market board selling for almost 100,000 per item, I can make for roughly 4,000 gil. That is a markup of literally 25 times the gil. And honestly, having said that, I am going to be lucky if this video isn't disliked and banished into the shadow realm for exposing this market. But to me personally, getting more people into the housing content and enjoying these systems far outweighs any temporary gil gains that I could have. And honestly, there are some really good methods out there that are even better than this. Anyhow, I just wanted to take that time and really dispel that right off the bat, because I think that that is the biggest bar to entry for a lot of people now, and I just want to get rid of that mental block. So the first step in trying to get your house done on a budget is to identify the items that you want or need for your house. So you have an inspiration, and that's fantastic, and definitely step number one on the path to getting here. But the first step of actually implementing it is you need to figure out what those items are that you need. And so these are going to lead into two different websites that I recommend. The first off is FFXIV and this is an extremely detailed website of all the housing items available, both indoor and outdoor, and features an extensive image catalog of all the items that you can view through, making it absolutely peerless when it comes to trying to find the right items to fit your ideal housing design that you've come up with. Such as take this wooden staircase bookshelf. This is a very iconic item that has its own appearance that is very much not shared, but because the image you can find, oh, this item's really cool, and then you find out the name, and then you can cross-examine it or whatever you want. And this website, I am going to say, does lead on with what is required to craft or obtain the items, but in my personal opinion at least, this feature could do with a little bit more love, and that's where my second website comes in. So this is going to be Garland Tools, specifically the DB or database side of it. So once you've identified the items that you want using FF14 housing, and you have made a list on, say, Notepad or Google Docs or something, it really doesn't need to be fancy spreadsheets, by the way, or something, because I have seen that sometimes. If you don't want it to be that and you just want like a basic written in like pencil on piece of paper, then go for it. You now can take this name and then plop the name down into the Garland Tools database like so. And we're going to take that same wooden staircase bookshelf and enter it into the search bar here, and then we can go to things like the sources and uses tab here, We see nothing necessarily useful here, which indicates that this is going to be a crafted item. So if you take example items like just this basic partition here, we can then go to the sources and uses tab, and we can actually see that there is actually a listing here to see exactly which NPC shops you should go to in order to buy that particular item. And likewise, if you drill down even further into the individual NPCs, you can get exact coordinates and maps that they're on. The one thing that this website is so insanely good at is drilling down for the exact information you want down to the exact coordinates. But now let's go back to the brand new beautiful bookshelf staircase. Now we are going to go into the crafting tab here for this one. So again, the sources and uses weren't so useful because this is a crafted item and NPCs don't have it. So on this tab, this is going to list out every detail on every single item that you need for this and where to get them. Like you can see, the housing merchant is where you get a stack of tomes from. Then items like true gold ore and a few lignum vitae logs and gold ore. These raw reagents are taken and then can be made into lignum vitae lumber and stolen gold ingots by crafters. Now, I want to say before anyone says that they're feeling super overwhelmed, that I promise that this is not that wildly difficult. These are just a lot of just pre-reagents that, like basic materials I should say. These are just the most basic materials showing what they're synthesized into in order to get that final product. And I want to state very clearly that even if you don't have a ability to craft, like you haven't leveled your crafters up or you haven't leveled up your gatherers, that this is still very accessible and that most people who have crafted can look at this or look at the basic reagents or even the final recipe and be like, okay, I know what I can do. But I can say that for the vast majority of the items that you can get their basic components very, very cheaply off of the market board. As I said earlier on, there are items selling for almost 100,000 gil per item, and the basic components to make it are no more than 4,000 from the market board. Now with these basic ingredients, you will say you don't have a crafter. Okay, that's totally cool. And what you should be doing at that point is going to Limsa Lominsa or whatever super busy you particularly have on your server. I know some servers like the Adventurers Guild and ul'dah, and asking someone in there to help you in shout chat really goes really far. And if your server doesn't have really that many people helping, maybe it's just a lower active time or not like the peak hours, I'd try swapping to some friendly servers like Cactor or Gilgamesh on my data center. And for other data centers, I'm not super familiar with their servers, but you can get the same idea there. Just go to one of the more populated servers and check out their shout chat. In my experience, at least Gilgamesh has been very open to crafting items for others. In fact, if I'm super honest, that seems to be more of what I do in Limsa Lominsa than other activities some days. And with those two websites out of the way and this technique of avoiding the super inflation of the market board, you should be fully set on how to build your house up on a budget. And anyhow, if this video helped you out in any way, I would super appreciate if you would consider smashing that like button with the old bozjan slap and cat daddying that subscribe button. Anyhow, that's all for this video. I hope to catch you in the next one, and happy housing.